Chancellor, the figures are out. What can you say to reassure people who will be looking at these figures and say, I'm on the brink of losing my job? What can you say to reassure them?
When we were chatting a few months ago, we talked about hard times are coming, is what I said. And today's figures show that hard times are here. Hundreds of thousands of people have already lost their job, and sadly many more will. But what I would say to all those people is, although difficult times lie ahead, we will get through this and no one will be left without hope or opportunity. And that's why we put in place our plan for jobs last month to support, create and protect jobs across the United Kingdom.
What about extending the furlough? It comes to an end at the end of October. Why not extend the furlough, particularly in sectors where people simply can't do their business as normal because of the restrictions?
So this is the most difficult decision that I've had to make. But if you take a step back and look at the furlough scheme, from start to finish, that's the government helping to pay people's wages for 8 months. Now that's an incredibly long period of time. And I think most people would agree that that's not a situation that's sustainable indefinitely. And in common with many other countries, these schemes are coming to an end towards the end of the year.
But there are particular sectors which you could help.
But no one, we shouldn't say, there is not the situation that there's no support. If you think about it, we've put in place a jobs retention bonus, which means companies that can successfully bring employees back will receive £1,000 per employee incentive to do so. That's a significant incentive, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. But we also, I think it's right to say, look, it's not always going to be possible for people to go back to the job they had. We shouldn't pretend that that's the case. Actually, what we're better off doing in that circumstance is providing people with new opportunities, fresh opportunities to go forward. And our plan for jobs does that, whether it's through initiatives like the Kickstart scheme or apprenticeships. Those are the things we should now be focused on.
So people should get used to the idea that they could well not be going back to the jobs they had before because the economy is going through a kind of transition. Is it fair to say that? There will be new jobs maybe in different areas, but you shouldn't assume you'll be going back into the same sort of areas you were working before.
I've been clear about that from the beginning of this crisis. No matter, in spite of all the interventions that we put in place, the unprecedented degree of support, I can't protect every single job. I can't save every single business.
But this is a transition for the economy then. We are going to have a different economy at the end of this.
That's why, I think it's too early to speculate on the exact shape of the economy, but what we should be doing and what we are doing is making sure that everyone has that hope, that opportunity for a fresh start. And that's why our initiatives like the Kickstart scheme, particularly for young people, or the new apprenticeships or new training, those initiatives are so important so that people can find new opportunities.
One scheme that has been successful, Eat Out to Help Out, it's just for the month of August. Are you thinking about extending it beyond the end of August?
No, this scheme was put in place to help protect the 2 million people that work in the hospitality industry. And that's what we should keep uppermost in our mind. Those 2 million people are disproportionately young, women, lower paid.
So could you extend it beyond the end of August?
Well, I think the idea of, that's not the plan. The idea of this was to try and encourage people to get out. If to remember,
You're thinking about it though? It's been so successful.
We haven't been going out for many months. These places have been shut, and this was to help encourage everyone to remind ourselves that we enjoy going out again.
And it has been successful, so could you review it? Are you reviewing it on the grounds it's been so successful? I think
the reason these things are successful is because they're time limited. That's the whole point. And that's why concentrating it in the month of August, as we've emerged out of lockdown, it brings the most impact to that sector and crucially, as I've said, helps protect those 2 million jobs, the people that work in this industry.
How confident are you that we're going to have a V-shaped recovery now? The Bank of England has gone through phases of whether they think it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. How confident are you that we can really bounce back from this?
Well, if you look at the figures out today, obviously what we saw in June was an improvement on the figures from the previous month, so that's encouraging, and look, hopefully that will continue. And indeed, our initiatives are designed to help drive that recovery as strongly as possible. We talked about Eat Out to Help Out being one of those. Other things we've done in the hospitality sector as well, in the housing industry and elsewhere. But I think take a step back. It's not going to feel like a V-shaped recovery if you're one of the hundreds of thousands of people who have already lost their job or one of the people who might well lose their job in the coming months. We've got to keep that in our mind, and that's why focusing on providing new opportunities for those people is the thing that I'm most focused on.
So you don't sound very confident that it will be a V-shaped bounce back. Are you more in the mindset now that it's going to be a longer period of bumping along the bottom before we come back up again?
I think most economists and economic forecasters would say that they're dealing at a time of unprecedented economic uncertainty. So I think we should have some humility about our ability to precisely predict the shape of the recovery. I think what we do know is that there are promising signs. There's still work to do, and even as we recover, that many people are going to lose their jobs, already have lost their jobs, and we need to make sure that we are constantly focused on providing new opportunities for those people.
Promising signs, but we are the worst in Europe, aren't we? We have the worst figures of developed economies in terms of the amount of loss of GDP. Why is that?
I think if you're making those comparisons, which I think is absolutely fair to make, I think what I would say is, if you look at our economy, social activities like eating out, going to the cinema, shopping, those activities comprise a much larger part of our economy than they do for most of our European comparator countries. And in a situation where you've essentially shut down all those industries for almost 3 months, that is going to have an outsized impact on our economy. And I think that's what you're seeing in the numbers today.
And final question, one of the most important things about getting the economy back is getting schools back. There's been a chaotic situation in terms of school grades here over the last few hours. Not much more than 24 hours before kids in England are supposed to be getting their grades, we have a change of policy. What's been going on that? You can't be very happy to be seeing what's been going on in the education sphere.
Well, I think that no one wanted to cancel these exams, and that's certainly not the fault of the students who are having to experience all of this. We're dealing with a pandemic. That meant we had to make difficult decisions at the time. So what we want to do now is ensure fairness for those young people, and that's what the changes in the policies that are announced will do. It will provide fairness for all of those people at what is a very difficult time.
Chancellor, thanks very much.